everyone, and welcome to another Ultimate Fighter episode review. I know, second one in a row. I did say it was going to come though, and this is for Season 30, Episode 3, titled Boiling Point. And we've got a fair bit to talk about. I don't think we'll have as much to talk about as last week, but hell, I don't know how this is going to go. We start back at the Ultimate Fighter house though, and Chantal Coates from Team Pena is talking to Mohammed Usman from Team Pena as well, and Chantal is talking about the fact that she's she is a flyweight, which is 125 pounds. She's been walking around about 30 pounds higher than that, and she explains to Usman that she had a lot of problems going into the house. She recently battled about with COVID and then the flu following that, and she also had a miscarriage quite recently before she came over to the show, which was quite distressing to hear. And Usman talks about how he also lost a kid. He had a son named Nash in 2016 with his partner, and in 2019 Nash passed away. And it was kind of it is one of those moments that reminds you that these are fighters that are actually fighting for something and trying to do something, and it was very, very sad to hear something like that from both Usman and Chantal, so I do wish them both the best. With that being said, it does lead us quite nicely into the video packages / backgrounds for the fighters. Usman goes through his, as well as the fact that he is Kamaru's brother, and he was actually talking to Kamaru, who, if you don't know, is the current UFC welterweight champion and one of the best fighters going right now, so you probably should have known that before. But yeah, Mohammed is talking to his brother, and his brother is giving him really good advice. Just be there, be you. Don't try and let anyone else get inside your head. And for the most part, that is working for Mohammed, but we'll talk more about that later. Mohammed also brings up the fact that he was born in Nigeria, and he and his family moved to Colorado quite early on. This is stuff I covered like way back 7 years ago in 2015 during that Black Zillions vs American Top Team season, which Kamaru Usman was on and won, and he talked about his background there, so makes sense. Next is Mitchell. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce his surname because it's pronounced two different ways in this episode. One is Sipe, the other is Sipe, and I keep pronouncing it Sipe, so I'm just gonna keep pronouncing it Sipe because fuck it, might call it Margaret for all I care. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Mitchell's background is he was sort of born in California, I think he says, and he moved to Vegas. And the first thing we see him doing actually for his video package thing is he's actually watching the last season of The Ultimate Fighter. So I thought that was quite a nice little touch. But yeah, he also brings up the fact that he was on the Contender Series a few years ago at the age of just 21, and he lost his fight. He suffered a nasty head kick that opened a massive cut on him. Then he lost by like TKO to his opponent, whose name was not brought up at all. And oh yeah, Sipe also brings up the fact that he and Mohammed were actually supposed to fight a few years ago, but Mohammed had hand surgery or hand injury or something, and then a few weeks later Mohammed had to fight with someone else. So yeah, it was kind of weird that Mitchell kept bringing that up, but yeah, we don't get as much into Mitchell's background either, except for the whole, he... oh no, we do. I tell a lie there. He tried to learn to live with his mother. His mother kept getting them into bad situations. Eventually his dad managed to get custody of him, and he's been living with him pretty much ever since. And his dad taught him a lot more than his mom could. And it's good that he got out of that situation and started living with his father, because yeah, that's not a good time. Then have the training and prep, and both men are trained quite differently. Mitchell is just trained to use what he knows, which is his massive looping hooks. He's got really big wide punches, and he's got some vicious knockout power. Surprising speed for a man of his size as well. And yeah, he's looking to utilise that power quite well. Not really much of a from a combo standpoint. He's not even going to try and use his wrestling a bit much, all too much, even though the coaches do teach him that. And they even teach him a little bit of jiu-jitsu as well. But again, the focus is on striking. And for Mohammed, the focus is on his striking as well, but from a different standpoint. Whereas Mitchell is going to throw like big looping shots, Juliana's main instruction for Usman is to throw laser shots, throw straight through them. As Julia puts it herself, if you've got a bit of string around your hand and you tie it to like a wall or something, you want the punch that's going to get you there faster, which won't be this looping one, it'll be the straightforward one. And I thought that was a really good way to put it. And there's not really much else to talk about until the fight, but there is a moment in the TUF house where Mitchell is just talking a lot of shit to Usman. Mitchell is repeatedly calling Usman a bum, and Mohammed replies by calling Mitchell no, actually, I think Mitchell is calling Usman a bitch, and Usman is calling Mitchell a bum. I got that a bit mixed up, and they're just talking shit to each other. This is while Mitchell is getting his haircut, by the way, to try and neat it up. And he even starts the whole conversation by saying, "Did it take you 32 years to grow that hairline?" And I thought, damn, that's actually a pretty good line. That was actually kind of funny. And it doesn't even stop there, because even when they're weighing in, and like Forrest announces what they weigh in at and stuff. I'm so glad that this is the role he's in, although I do wish he were more prominent, considering that he's, he won season 1 of the show. Anyway, after Mitchell and Usman weigh in, they start talking shit there as well. They start getting in each other's faces as well, and Forrest steps between them, tries to cut them off, even with like the old cheeky grin. Is just like, just calm down, guys. He's not overly aggressive with it. He's just like, okay, yeah, just pose for the camera now. Like he's a dad telling his kids off. It was actually kind of hilarious. And it's another part of the reason why I love Forrest Griffin, and you should too. Also forgot to mention for the backgrounds, Mohammed Usman is 32 and Mitchell is 25. 25. Fuck. Anyway, we get to the fight itself, and at first Mitchell starts a glove touch, but Mohammed doesn't acknowledge it, and for the most part they're sort of both going in a little bit. Mohammed is using his much more close striking, and Mitchell is sort of using his and using a good couple of counters here and there. But for the most part he's just taunting. He keeps doing this thing where he's like got his left arm down there and his right hand taps his chest and he raises it up into the crowd, even though the only crowd there are the officials, Dana, Forrest, other referees, and security, Cutman, the coaches, and the rest of the fighters on the teams. Not really a huge crowd though, not exactly, T-Mobile Arena capacity, but there you go. Anyway, round 1, it does mostly seem like Mitchell is clowning Mohammed. He's not throwing many strikes, but he does land a big overhand right, like with a couple of minutes left in the round. That does drop Mohammed hard. Mohammed manages to get back up quite quickly though, and he does get a good clinch, and he lands, he sort of has Mitchell down a bit and lands a good uppercut that knocks Mitchell down. Follows up with some really good strikes and almost gets the finish, I would say. He gets some really good ground strikes in, but Mitchell's able to recover quite well. And round 1, kind of difficult to call because of how well both men were moving, but I think it might go to Mitchell because of the fact that he dropped Usman with that right. I think that was the best shot he lands in the entire fight. Then round 2 starts, and it's a much different ballpark. For the most part, Mitchell is just almost entirely focused on taunting right now. He's not landing as many shots. Not really mixing up either. He's mostly looking to headhunt, as is Mohammed, and that explains why they're a bit more tentative to even really start fighting. But Mohammed is finding his openings. He's using his jab quite well to set up his shots. He's landing some beautiful stuff on Mitchell. He opens like a sort of cut and it starts swelling under Mitchell's right eye in the first round, and Mohammed even has a cut above his left eye in the first round too. Also forgot to mention at the start of round 2 that Mitchell went for a glove touch. Mohammed also went for a glove touch, but then Mitchell pulled his hand back. I thought that was quite interesting. But yeah, the rest of round 2 it was mostly just Mohammed using his striking quite well. Mitchell was just taunting and talking a bit of shit here and there. His left eye starts to bleed a little bit as well from some shots that Mohammed lands. Mohammed is just there much more frequently, landing some really good shots, putting his combos together well. Stuns Mitchell, like he does for a mean overhand right that does wobble Mitchell, doesn't knock him down or anything, but it's a really good shot. And I give round 2 to Usman, and it seems that the judges, that sounds wrong, that they agree with me, and that we do actually get a third round, so let's talk about that. Then we move to the third and final round, and Team Nunes actually gives Mitchell some good advice in his corner, which is to actually throw some strikes and stop clowning around. And Mitchell does significantly less of that in round 3. He actually starts throwing some good leg kicks and some good high kicks as well. A couple of them are blocked by Usman, especially the high kicks, and Usman is just using his distance quite well in round 3. When they do get close to, like, in terms of the scrambles, Mitchell actually lands some good shots from the inside. But Usman is using his range quite well, managing to counter quite well, and yeah, just landing some really good combos, baiting Mitchell in a little bit more, much like the last episode when Caitlin was baiting in Helen. It doesn't help that there's a fighter on Team Pena also named Juliana that isn't Juliana Pena herself. I keep getting confused there, and that was yesterday. Yeah, round 3 quite clear cut, even though Mitchell is actually putting in a bit more work. He's throwing some good shots, he's still eating some really nasty ones. Even Mohammed is mixing up a bit more now. He's not just headhunting, he's throwing some good shots to the body. And I do want to bring up as well, like, usually they bring up the cams to focus on the coach's corners. Sometimes they'll bring it up with like Dana and stuff, and he's talking about the fact that he likes Mitchell because he's taunting and he sees him as a crazy madman, which is the kind of shit that Dana loves. And Forrest just sat there with him like, yeah, whatever, I'd rather just, see them fight. Like, that's not what he says, but that's the look on his face, and I'm just like, same Forrest, I just want to see Mitchell fight. And as well as Mitchell does fight, it's not enough to win him this third round. He does still clown a fair bit, even though he's better in this round than he was in the first 2. But I still give round 3 to Usman, and the judges call it a unanimous decision for Usman, which means Team Pena gets the win. And absolutely, again, no complaints about that. I thought this was a really entertaining fight. I don't know if it was better or worse than last week's. I think there was it was a very stop-start fight. It was a bit of a wonky fight, even more so than last week's, but it was still pretty entertaining. Mitchell's taunting, I could have done without. The trash talk I don't mind, but taunting inside the cage, just don't do that. If you're going to get in there and fight, fucking fight. I mean, there's always a problem I have with showboat, is just yeah, you get in there in the cage, you talk all that shit. Fucking hit someone, dude. If Mitchell had done more, he probably wouldn't have been disappointed by the end, because, yeah, obviously he lost, and he was a bit emotional about it, but not as emotional as Mohammed was. He mentions his son again, and he starts crying, and he's very, very happy to have won it, and much like Caitlyn did last week, found out that she lost to her father. She won, she might go on to win. I hope the same happens for Mohammed, not just because he's Kamara's younger brother. I hope he's able to do it with his own way and his own narrative, because he lost something a long time ago. I want him to win this season, personally. And the last thing we have to talk about is the next fight for the next episode, which I'll likely be reviewing tomorrow, and it will be Chantel Coates from Team Pena versus Brogan Walker, I think her name is, from Team Nunes. That's the team, that's the red team. And yeah, that'll be a really, really fun one, I'm hoping. I like that we're going back and forth between the men and the women. And yeah, really good call from Penny to pick this fighter, I think. I do hope that Chantel has worked on her weight a bit more and that she's down to a more manageable level, because usually in The Ultimate Fighter they wouldn't bring up that fight as having weight issues if they weren't going to fight soon. And it's something I've noticed with the editing over the years of watching the show. So I do find that interesting, and I hope that Chantel is able to make it, because I really want to see that fight. But that'll about do it. That's another episode reviewed and in the books. I'll see you most likely tomorrow for episode 4, if it's available anywhere to watch. If not, it'll probably be pushed back a bit. Then Thursday for Music of the Week. A reminder, no PPW vs AEW stream tonight. However, I will be putting up the Deck the Brawls pay-per-view tonight on my YouTube channel. So stay out for that. Stay on the lookout for that, I meant to say. And yeah, see you for most likely tomorrow for episode 4. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.